parents, caregivers, uncles, aunts, grandparents, teachers, mentors, and other folks who care about children and teens. I'm Carla Atherton, Director of the Lotus Health Project, lotushealthproject.com, and your host for the Children's and Teen Health Summit. I am absolutely pumped, thrilled, excited to be speaking to you today to kick off the much anticipated Children's and Teen Health Summit. The first thing I would like to address in this talk is the inspiration behind the creation of this event, the events that led up to this inspiration, and the motivation that kept the vision alive, well, and eventually a reality. I have loved working with children and teens since my early days when I made a few bucks for rent working as a nanny through my undergrad degree. When I finished my degree and became a mother in the same month at the age of 23, I found myself wondering how I would combine my education, my work life, my passions, and motherhood to make something of the time I spent in the world and in my life. My cousin and her friends were over one day, and while we were talking about this and playing with my 9-month-old son, Carrie said, "Why don't you teach creative writing to kids?" So I started working on the programs and advertising that very week. I worked in the fields of creative writing, poetry, women's studies, pop culture, psychology, and became an unschooling mother who studied and encouraged critical thinking and life learning in my children. I ran a magazine and became a publisher and writer and editor, and worked at a couple of universities coordinating writing courses and lecturing. My independent creative writing courses became more mature as my children grew, and I began to introduce my young participants to philosophy and critical thought and media studies and the story as a hero's journey. Thank you, Joseph Campbell. I began to culminate intellectual issues with the physical and emotional. I have a passion and a propensity for bringing people and ideas together, for creating something from scratch. And although I always tell myself not to do it, that there are easier ways, I often try to reinvent the wheel just a wee bit. Anyway, as my children grew, so did I. And as much as I influenced their growth toward their greater selves, so they did the same for me. But all of that has been leading up to the very peak of what I have been learning and growing toward in this journey, and it is this summit. No joke. Many years later, my passion has only grown for mothering, for creativity, for expression and individuality, for empowerment. My work at the university deepened my interest and understanding about autonomy in women's healthcare in particular. And what I found was that we all need to be autonomous in our healthcare, in the decisions we make regarding how vital and alive we want to be. We need to take charge of our own health and the health of our children. Years into a very busy life full of children and work and study, well, a full-on and full life, I found my own physical health declining and noticed signs of this decline in my 3 children. When we experienced a profound life change almost 3 years ago when my middle child was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I dug deeper into this thing we call health with a long spade and no looking back to the surface to see how far I was going in. Let me read you a short excerpt from my About Me page on my website. My baby girl got type 1 diabetes. Diagnosis, February 2nd, 2012. On the first night in the hospital, when the endocrinologist told me that the glycemic index had nothing to do with blood sugar control, and the kid in the bed next to my daughter was eating Fruit Loops for breakfast, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. That's when I said, no more. That's when I poured myself into finding the root and what we could do about not only my daughter's health, but the rest of us too. It's one thing to have things bug and bother you and your family, to be lukewarm to change and to settle for putting on the band-aids while the real wounds remain underneath. But it is another thing entirely when that thing shows up so vividly and real and life-changing as a disease that everyone says is intense and forever. That's when I dug in and began to get serious about change, for good, lasting. And is the journey ever hard and life-altering? And, well, beautiful, my friends. I began to study less about construction, creative writing, and gardening, and focused more on health and wellness. I followed the rabbit hole of medical investigation and opened myself up to new ideas and learning about how things worked under the surface. I asked for blood tests and got copies of everything. I questioned and searched, and even though I felt utterly alone and maybe crazy for doing all of this, I found others who were doing the same thing. The junk, whether it be of mind, body, or spirit, just wasn't good enough anymore. I learned to go deep, and deep I went. So despite some sideways looks from doctors when I told them I was going to help my daughter with nutrition, and the awkwardness that can take place at potluck dinners where rolls and sweet desserts abound, I became the mom lugging the soup pot into the hospital with a ladle hanging out of my purse, and the guest who brings the multicolored salad. I even talk to the beets I eat and thank them on behalf of my liver. Don't judge me. My thirst for more knowledge and a refusal to settle for any diagnosis that has set me on the most beautiful course to unearth underlying causes and give my body and the bodies of my loved ones the tools they need to heal, be healthy, and stay that way. Yes, I laugh and joke with family and friends about bad habits and vices. I'm a fun woman, but I am truly doing what I am called to do when I see the heap of salad on my friends and family that my friends and family took from the buffet table, inquiring, "How did you make this?" And when I remember the nurse who asked for just a taste of the soup because it smells so good. Yes, yes, yes. This drive rubs off on the people I love. I see it every day when my kids decide to sleep at home because they know they won't get a good rest at a friend's place, or when my hungry, frustrated, quote-unquote, diabetic daughter stops herself from crying in the grocery store in order to choose a snack because I was able to tell her, "It's just food, kiddo. We have lots of choices." I wonder about my daughter and how she will feel about me using her in this story that I am telling you. But she isn't just a story. She is a walking, talking testament to the power we all possess to heal and to be as well as we possibly can. Although I hope to inspire her, she is my inspiration also. All three of my kids are. So although I am still doing a lot in my life, what woman who has 3 kids and a life doesn't? I don't have to stop doing what I love. I have learned that by taking care of myself, I can do anything I want to do without burning out or falling apart. And I am listening to my thoughts, to my body, to the people who love and support me. It is in these listening moments that we can build up to being strong and capable and able to take on whatever life brings with vigor, passion, and positivity. No one has to wait for a diagnosis to motivate them toward good health. We can jump in wherever we are, and at the point when we finally say, "I am sick of being sick, I'm sick of being tired, I'm sick of my kids being sick and tired. I am not going to settle for that." Let me say that again. I am not going to settle for that. End quote. So that being said, in order to do this, we need information and support, of course, right? My life's work with children and teens has always been a profound part of what I want to offer the world. But the health challenges of my daughter has propelled me further, deeper, and more inspired than ever before. So here are 3 problems we face today in regards to our children's health. Number 1, not taking into account that our children are whole people, mind, body, and spirit. Number 2, everything is so fast that we miss the point or the signs or the truth. We have become really disconnected, and our children have become really disconnected to a multitude of things, which we'll go through in a little bit. Number 3, not taking them with us on our own journeys toward health. And that is the one I'm going to end with. So let's start with the first one, the whole child. Health is about the whole child, their mental, social, spiritual, physical selves, and every aspect deeply and profoundly affects the other aspects. We hear this all the time, but just stop and let this sink in for a moment. Just stop and think for a moment, because it is one of the few things I can truly say is an absolute truth. If your child is emotionally troubled or stressed, their physical bodies show signs of stress or illness, right? If your child is physically ill, this will affect their mental and emotional well-being. If your child has lots of close family bonds, they are simply happier. If they have some sort of mindfulness practice or a chance to be in nature or to sit and create and play for a while every day, they handle stress better, they rest better, they function more fully and get less sick less often. Taking a functional approach to children's health is key. We need to understand that our children are a beautiful symbiotic orchestration of music. So what is happening to the health of our children and why? Well, due to our poor diets and lifestyle choices and the conflicting information parents and caregivers are overwhelmed with through media, the internet, and advertisement, it is no wonder that we are now seeing the rates of obesity, diabetes, ADHD, depression, addictions, autism, and a myriad of health problems, including, well, just feeling like heck all the time, swiftly rising in our young population. There is something not right about that. Our kids are becoming ill at an alarming rate. There is a serious disconnect from our food, our bodies, our social lives, the environment, and very own spirits for this generation of our children. There's a lot of talk about the food corporations poisoning us for the sake of their own profit. We are becoming increasingly aware of our disconnection between what we eat and where that food comes from. Our youth experience a disconnect from their lives on the couches, in front of the television and computer screens, and the outside world, their environment, the soil and plants and mountains and ocean we call nature. Another profound point I've learned through all of this, we are noticing that we are losing the power to control the quality of our health by forgetting it was ever ours in the first place. So we just forget that we are losing that power. We are deciding that we don't have control over our own health, and that is not true. But to further this, what I have found to be the most profound life lesson I have learned, and I'm still learning, is that the role we have as parents and caregivers with regards to their health care, our children's health care, and well-being is to embark on health journeys of our own and never forget to take our kids with us. I can't tell you how often I see parents eating their salads while their children eat hot dogs, saying that their kids just won't eat salad. Labeling hot dogs and fries and deep fried breaded chicken fingers and pizza as kid food and the only choices on restaurant menus is an absolute pet peeve of mine. We eat what we are accustomed to eating, what we see our families eat. And that goes for emotional health and spiritual health and social health as well. If we need breaks from unhealthy social situations, or need to learn stress reduction methods for relieving stress, or to learn ways of coping with illness, death, or moving houses or cities, chances are our kids need that too. Do not underestimate children. Given the right information, they will make the right choices regarding their health. Given the right information, they will be more inclined to choose energy and vitality over convenience. Given the right modeling, they will listen and learn and absorb what is healthy for them. So don't underestimate them. Inspire them. Show them that they too can be healthy and strong and vital, and that they have the power within themselves. Educate them and let them educate you. Take them grocery shopping, not to sit in carts crying for that box of Oreos, but to tour around in the produce section with the important task of selecting the apples for the family. Don't let those teenagers sit in the car while you do all the shopping either. Even if you don't need their help, they would be well served to have a purpose and a say in the family's food choices and budgeting and planning. Cook together, rest together, play together, but always have a little me time and make sure your children get some too. We need not be perfect parents, for it is also in communicating and being open when we ourselves are struggling or have made a mistake that teaches our children so much about kindness, acceptance, autonomy, and perseverance. This is not a space for judgment, my friends. I'm not here to judge you. I am here with you in the trenches, as I always say. We are all part of what is happening here, despite the fact that none of us is sure how we got here or if we want to stay. What I'm interested in is looking forward in starting a children's health revolution. We are here because we love those young people. Those people, as I call my own children, my heart's walking around outside of me. That's the poet of me coming out. I think I'll end this talk with a quote from a beautiful little book called The Tao of Motherhood, from verse 68 on empowerment. Empowerment is the natural means to grow a good human being. I'll second that.